things of that nature, 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 things of that nature.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Pot of That Nature post-game report card. Andrew Ellis here alongside me. I'm Curtis Wilkerson, by the way, with Inside Arkansas. We're here to break down, get into the nitty-gritty, position by position, grade out the Hogs after, just a get-right game, a feel-good performance, 58-25 win over Mississippi State in Starkville. Before we get into it, Andrew, just real quick, you slept on it now. How do you feel about the Razorback performance on the road in an SEC game where they were expected to win, expected to handle their business, and then they just kind of went out and, for a change, did exactly that?
Curtis, it was a very good performance. And a lot of times in sports and really in life, we always do the thing where we're like, we take something and then we try to like formulate conclusions based on it. I don't think that's the time to do this. Like, It's not an Arkansas played really well yesterday, therefore blank. It's just Arkansas played really well against, the worst SEC defense and a team that, they should have beaten. But it is worth noting, Arkansas was 7-point favorites. So, I will accept, just like with the LSU game, I kept saying, I'll accept that LSU's the better team, but don't give me the whole, well, you just got to tip your hat. Of course they beat Arkansas by 24, because we didn't think that was going to happen. Mm-hmm. Same with this game, where I will accept the, hey, Mississippi State sucks and Arkansas is a better team, but I don't think I expected that to happen necessarily. Now, I saw a path to it, but I don't know if I saw Arkansas winning by 30 plus. And so, if I'm going to give Arkansas, if I'm going to give them a hard time for getting blown out by LSU, I got to give them their flowers for blowing out Mississippi State. I feel like anytime you blow out an SEC opponent on the road, regardless of how bad they are, you got to feel good about yourself. And I feel good about the Pigs.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, it was Arkansas did not play particularly well on the road against Auburn. But they won that football game. They wound up winning it by 2 scores. And the entire conversation was, a lot to work on. But my goodness, you can't complain too much about an SEC road win, no matter how it looks, because those are so hard to get. And you got to cherish them when it happens. And so that's absolutely the case here. It wasn't perfect. Some things that got to sharpen up. That's why we come in here and do this post-game report card where we go position by position. But overall, really good stuff in this game where I felt like I was in the twilight zone, Andrew, from a standpoint of all the things that usually go wrong for Arkansas, whether it's reviews or struggles in the red zone or just dumbass mistakes that just seem to rear their ugly head over and over. That kept happening to Mississippi State. And I wrote a story. I was writing it during the game and pushed it out right afterwards. And a couple times I just had bullet points of just my takeaways in the moment. And it was like, why is Mississippi State about to be 1-7? Well, here is why. Why is Mississippi State a bad team? Here is why. Because your guy thinks he has a touchdown. He doesn't. He throws the ball 25 rows up into the stands. Now they're back on the 16. They don't score. They were doing those things. And in credit to Arkansas, they didn't. They took care of business. They were poised on the road. They were the better team. They knew it, and they executed like it. So well done. Let's get into these position-by-position breakdowns, man. I always look forward to this every week, and we always start at the quarterback position. My goodness, man. We've been talking the last couple of weeks about Taylon Green making progress as a thrower, making better decisions. His accuracy has improved, but the part of his game that was, maybe missing a couple things was, well, he's still not really throwing any touchdown passes. And then also, he's run for negative yardage since that Auburn game. What the hell is going on? Well, listen, Mississippi State ain't good, but anytime you can go 23 of 29, 314 passing yards, 5 touchdowns with only 1 interception, and then you run 8 times for 79 yards for another score, holy crap. That is an impressive performance. And I can't remember what it was right off the top of my head. You mentioned it before we started. His PFF grade is absurd from this game, as it should be.
94.0 on PFF, which, you hear that and you think, okay, that's an A performance. I'm sure that happens a lot. Really doesn't. Anything over 80 on PFF, especially for a single game grade, that's a dominant performance. And, we mentioned the 5 touchdowns, I guess 1 on the ground. So 6 really, total for Taylon Green, and the 1 interception he threw really wasn't his fault. A rare Andrew Armstrong mishap. where he kind of gets knocked down, and could it have been could maybe he gave him a little shove, I don't know, but clearly it was just kind of one of those where like, I'm not going to draw a big picture conclusion from it, but getting Taylor Green's legs was a massive deal. And now look, let's just be clear. This was a matchup where if Arkansas hadn't gotten Taylor Green's legs going, it would have been a real issue. It would have caused for concern, because that's what we kind of said all week was like, if you can't get going against this defense, you ain't getting going. And so look, we're not going to throw a parade for Arkansas getting going offensively, but this group definitely needed that confidence boost, and Taylor Green was kind of building toward this performance. Like you said, his accuracy had improved, his decision-making. He felt a little bit more comfortable despite having an injury mixed in there. I felt like him as a passer was making some progress. To see it all kind of come to fruition, this is what we call all things coming together for an athlete, which in sports, Curtis, I mean, just whatever sport it is, that's what makes sports fun, when you can kind of see that progression happen and you see it all come together. And yesterday that happened for Taylor Green. He's going to face a much, much, much tougher test against Ole Miss Saturday. This will be a good chance for him to really solidify himself as one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC, Curtis. And I say that just looking at his season numbers now, Curtis. He's third in the SEC in passing yardage, which he's been up there for a while. He's 8.3 yards per attempt, which is in the top 5 or 6 of the league of qualified passers. Now, I mean, the touchdown interception, even with yesterday, 11 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, not going to blow anyone away, but he's also
better than it was
rushing quarterbacks in the league. And so we'll see what he ends up with in the touchdown department. But like we said it yesterday, we're going to look up after the season and be like, Taylor Green, like that's a pretty solid season. I think that the select few in the fan base who have been trying to cling to this idea that Arkansas has a quarterback problem, or there's some weird mysterious conspiracy going on, and that's why Malachi Singleton's not playing, I think those people can at least like shut the hell up now, right? Again, we're not going to throw a parade for putting up 58 points on Mississippi State, but we can at least declare Arkansas at least has their quarterback. They know who their quarterback is. He's the guy. Curtis, I felt like that was his best game as a Hog, and I think that was the best performance in the game. PFF agrees with me. I'm going A+ for Taylor Green. Now, I know that there's an argument to be made of, well, he had the fumble that should have gone awry, throw a pick or whatever, and we can kind of nitpick. But in these wins, we do like to hand out an A+, and I'm not handing mine out to the defense. I'll just tell you that right now. A+ for Taylor Green.
I like it. I like it a lot, man. Yeah, you know what we didn't see in the postgame yesterday is the thing that we saw over and over and over, really for like the last month, which was Taylor Green ain't it. He ain't it. He ain't an SEC quarterback. He ain't it. Where the hell was that? Yesterday, I don't know. So yeah, I think it might have shut some people up there, and good on him. And we'll see what he looks like moving forward. Consistency is always going to be the thing with him, but for this sample size, it doesn't get much better than that. However, you gave him an A+. I don't disagree with that at all. I'm going to give him an A, and the reason why is because we reserved one A+ apiece in a win, and I have to go elsewhere because, well, I swore to it on social media, and there's receipts out there. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But outstanding job by Taylor Green, man. He was incredible in this game. Speaking of incredible, the running backs, man. No Jaquindon Jackson in this game. He was hurt. We knew that Braylon Russell was going to be the stud that they wanted to feed. You knew that they had Dominion in there backing him up. And Arkansas, they had a breakout performance, 359 rushing yards in this game after they were averaging 114.5 per game on the ground in SEC play coming in. So just, completely shattered that, which was great. And yes, the offensive line will get credit for that. We'll get into it shortly. Yes, Taylor Green accounted for 79 of those yards himself. But man, 16 carries, 175 yards for Braylon Russell. He had to work hard to get the first 100, and then he had one run where, man, it was like his gas tank hit empty about halfway down the
he
field.
worked hard for that one as well. He was pumping those legs. That's 255 pounds, man. He's carrying that sucker.
That's a big fella trucking it down the field, man. I thought he was going to get the 99-yarder. Not quite, but 75 is not too shabby. And then Rashad Dominion, man, 11 carries, 98 yards, had a touchdown. Russell does all that work. He doesn't get in the end zone. Dominion does get in there. But man, these guys were fantastic. 9.7 yards per carry it's nasty work. Mississippi State that's the worst SEC defense I've seen in a long time. That's the worst SEC football team on a Saturday. And I know they've been making some progress, and they also have some dudes who are injured and whatever, but that's the worst SEC football team I've seen since Chad Morris's Razorbacks. Like, they looked really bad out there, and Arkansas should have beat the hell out of them, and they absolutely did. I mean, goodness, dude. Like, I'm gonna go A. again here for the running backs. And part of me wants to go A- because Dubinion put the ball on the turf twice, but he didn't lose them either time.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing with him, man, because I thought he ran really well in this game, ran hard in this game. He also had a couple receptions for 22 yards. So over a 100-yard game for Dubinion. He looks like a more explosive and a healthy version of himself. You got to stop putting the ball on the turf, man, if you're going to continue to get carries. And I think he could be a weapon for this team. He reminds me of Traylon Smith a couple years ago, who would have his moments and have his burst, but then, man, he just had the fumble bug, and all of a sudden Dubinion's having a hard time hanging on to that thing. But overall, really hard to complain much about what those guys did.
Yeah, I did. I also like the 3 receptions for 22 yards for Rashad Dubinion, which I know is not going to blow anyone away, but he continues to have an impact in the passing game for Arkansas, which I think moving forward, especially if you get Jaquin Jackson fully healthy, due to some of those ball security issues, I think as a pass catcher is going to be the best way Rashad Dubinion can make an impact for this team. We always say that context matters when we're doing these, where, we don't grade every single thing the same, because sometimes, you're missing your top back, or you're facing the best D-line in the country, or something like that. In this game, the context matters, and I say that on both ends of the spectrum, because you're down Jaquin Jackson, you're down Rodney Hill, who's helping you a lot early in the year. So the fact that Arkansas was, kind of on RB 3 and 4, but really RB 2 and 3, or whatever the case you want to make it, the fact that it was just those 2 guys that came and did this is very impressive to me. They also did it against the worst defense in the country, or at least in the SEC, one of the worst in the country. And so if there's a case to be made for them lower, that would probably be it, and the 2 fumbles. But I'm with you. I'm going A. It's hard to ask for much more out of that group. Sure. Curtis, I was watching the game with a mutual friend of ours who goes by the name of Ryan Mallett Scantron. And you know how he is, where he's very opinionated. And he just is not an R-Dub guy. Just never been a fan of R-Dub. And so every time R-Dub would have a good run, I would sarcastically kind of be cheering him on, kind of like we're going to be doing with Pooh Bear the Plug with Taylor Green, where every time he makes a good throw, we're like, oh, hey, Pooh Bear. So, and R-Dub happened to have like the best game of his career. And so I had a lot of opportunities to be like, oh, this is the guy you hate, huh? R-Dub? And so I always like being in that troll position. And the Razorback running back room, unironically, very good. Braylon Russell, good to see him. He's now over 300 yards for the year. Going into next year, man, I'm excited for Braylon Russell, just because he's going to finish this year with a nice little workload. Going into next year, man, that's got to make you feel good about the guy you have, from the state of Arkansas. Let's assume they can keep him. That makes you feel really good to see a performance like that.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. Moving on to the pass catchers of the world, we'll start with the receivers. Man, it's only 6 incompletions in this game for Taylor Green. He had 1 more incompletion than he did touchdown pass, which is crazy. Just there's so many quirky things for Arkansas. If you really go back and look at it, like let's think real quick about the points that they scored in their first 4 SEC games. So they had 24 against Auburn. What was it? 17 against Texas A&M, I think. Yeah. So 24 17. And then 17 and then 19 against Tennessee and then 10 against LSU. So there's just not much going on there. And if you look at the quarter by quarter scoring in this game, it's like 17, 14, 10, 17. Like it's almost,
that's good.
It's almost the same. It just makes no sense to me. But at any rate, he spread it out a lot. I mean, we've got, 9 different pass catchers in this game, and it was receivers, it was tight ends, it was both running backs who were getting involved. Great job by Taylor Green and Bobby Petrino for dialing it up to just really spread this thing out. But 4 receptions, 76 yards for Andrew Armstrong. Isaac Tesla had that one, it was like that one drive where he identified a matchup where kind of him and that guy were going at it, and he just kind of worked him over. But yeah, 3 receptions, 51 yards for him. Tyrone Broden didn't get the touchdown like I predicted. Come on, bro. But 2 receptions for 33 yards. So back-to-back multi-catch games for him, which, shoot, man, you'll take it. Jordan Anthony, hey, buddy. Reception,
nice
27 yards.
Jordan.
Touchdown. There you go. Congratulations. First of his career. And Satania, 2 receptions, 16 yards. So might have liked to seen him get going a little bit more, but kind of spread it out there a little bit. Nobody had huge games. Jordan Anthony was the only receiver to catch a touchdown pass, but I don't know. I don't think I have
a the day from Talon, by the way, the Jordan Anthony touchdown.
Seed, man.
I love that throw.
Oh yeah, it was beautiful.
So did you give a grade on the receivers, by the way?
Oh no.
I was gonna follow your lead, whatever you did. I'm just kidding.
I don't know that they really had. I don't think they had any drops, or at least they don't on the stat broadcast. I mean,
okay. I was kind of like torn on like what to do with them because it was weirdly like as well as the Arkansas offense played, pass offense, rush offense, everything. I weirdly feel like the receivers in particular were like almost the weak link. Like not
yeah,
weak. Again, you put up 58 points and 670 yards of offense. There's
right.
not a weak link.
Well,
I
will
really
say,
liked how much they spread it out. But yeah, like you can make an argument this was the quote unquote worst position group for Arkansas on offense.
yeah,
I'll go A- simply because Andrew Armstrong caused the interception, and we must hold him accountable. We're not homers around here. Just because his parents are watching our show, we're going to hold him accountable. Don't fall down, Andrew Armstrong.
Exactly, man.
By the way, we got to get Andrew. We got to get back to getting Andrew Armstrong in the end zone. I know he got the seal broken last week, but I was really hoping he would get a couple in this game. This seemed like the game to do it too, because I feel like if he finishes with 5 or 6 touchdowns, he'll have a good chance to be all SEC. And you can't have Andreas Postgame with more touchdowns than Andrew Armstrong. You just can't. But no, I unironically though, like with the receivers, I felt like they played well, spread it around. I really like seeing Tesla's catches because he had the 2 back-to-back, I believe, where he had the one that was like kind of like a post corner that he got open, and then he caught the one over the middle, which is like vintage T-Slaw, which I love.
The dude was like trying to hold his leg or whatever as he was getting up. I thought they were gonna.
That's a big dude throwing the ball over the middle. Like he's gonna make those contested catches.
Yeah.
This game makes you realize Bobby Petrino's got some toys to play with, man. It's nice, at least against Mississippi State. They all look like NFL guys. But yeah, I'll go A-. I thought they were pretty good. Nothing crazy, nothing really hard for me to knock them on.
For sure. You convinced me and you made a really good point. I'm going to drop them from an A to an A- for that very reason of like somebody has to be the quote unquote weak link, even if everyone played well. And I just kind of know where I'm headed with the other 2 groups here. So A-, sure. Pick it up, fellas. What are you doing? Tight ends. Okay. A+. There you go. I did it. Promised that this was going to happen on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, during the game. Obviously, Taylor Green was phenomenal, but my MVPs have to go to the tight ends. It was beautiful work, man. It felt so good to see Luke Hasz get involved early and often. 4 receptions in this game. I'm guessing that's a season high on 4 targets. So caught every ball that was thrown at him. 28 yards after catch, which was good to see him, catching the football and making some moves because it has been, little dink and dunk here and there, and then getting bumped out of bounds, but he looked healthy. 30 yards for his long, and then 2 touchdowns. I mean, he sold it very well down there near the goal line on that first play. Just the beautiful throwback to better times in the past. That was great. Did he have the first and last touchdown reception of this game?
It was either him or Postgame that caught that last one.
Yeah, I can't remember, but just phenomenal work by him. And then, Postgame. There you go.
Oh, no, Dubinion. Dubinion had that touchdown late,
but
it was Hasz and then Dubinion.
Okay, that's right. Yeah. And so there you go. 2 touchdown receptions. Great stuff. You finally got him involved, and he can be a real weapon for you anywhere on the field, but especially down there in scoring territory. And then, Postgame, man, 3 receptions. Because I had just finished writing that he had his first reception as a Razorback in the story. Mm-hmm. And then he got the touchdown reception. I was like, what the hell is going on? 2 touchdown catches for the blocking tight end, who we didn't think much of when he was out for 5 weeks or whatever with that concussion. And now he comes back and he's a playmaker. He's dynamic. He does a little bit of everything. I absolutely love it, man. 4 touchdown receptions for your tight ends, who also did a fantastic job in run blocking. So A+, man. I love it.
Yeah, A+. I feel like I can't go with A+ because I gave Taylor an A+, and I'm not changing my mind on that. So I'll go A just to be the hater here. But just to further your point though a little bit and back you up, Luke Hasz, if you're looking at PFF, Luke Hasz was the number 2 player on the Arkansas offense with an 89.6 overall grade, by far his highest of the year. Gave him a 91.7 receiving grade. Postgame with an 89.4 receiving grade and a 70.4 blocking grade. Each of those guys played 40 snaps. Ty Washington, 1 snap. That was it. And Varkey's Gums was obviously out, which, by the way, that's the availability report, not the injury report. He was not available.
Yeah,
but he did not play. Ty Washington, only 1 play. So Postgame is like, at least confirmed, like he's TE2. He's the guy. And really, I mean, they both played 40 snaps. Like, they're using those guys together. I mean, it's an interesting little thing they got going on. And it seems like Bobby Petrino to our boy Tom Murphy was saying like, hey, he knew the tight ends were going to go off today. They had this dialed up for him. And so I'd like to see Arkansas continue to feature all these other pieces in the offense. I mean, you get Jordan Anthony going, you get your 2 running backs going, you get your 2 tight ends going. Ty Broden's making catches. We've seen Satania, obviously Andrew Armstrong. It just makes Arkansas harder to defend when now these teams are kind of looking around like, oh man, we got to defend a lot. And so I don't have any criticisms for the tight end. Very well done.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. This is a complete tangent, so I'm just going to say it and then we can move on. But for whatever reason, in my mind, I just started seeing the potential of Braylon Russell or Jaquindon Jackson just meeting Pooh Paul in the hole next week. And that excites me, man. I can't wait to see that matchup. And listen, people can be salty about that. He has, and I don't blame anybody who's salty about, a guy who transfers interconference or whatever. I always loved me some Pooh Paul. So did Sam Pittman. Loved his dad too, and then he kind of went rogue on us. But that's gonna be one of the funnest storylines of the season is seeing
he
that.
He definitely went rogue.
I can't wait. We need to try to get him on the show. You think he'd do it?
Chris Senior? Oh, dude.
Yeah, I think he might do it. I mean, he might consider it.
We definitely need to plant that seed. That's
at least a recorded interview if he doesn't want to get torched live. I'm gonna slide in them DMs. Anyway, moving on. Sorry. Offensive line in this game against Mississippi State. It felt good to get old Coot back out there. We figured it was about time for him. Patrick Kudus, debut of the season back at left guard. It looked pretty damn good in there. The Arkansas offensive line looked as good as they have all season. Again, against not only one of the worst defensive units in the country, but a Mississippi State defense who admittedly had 3 very key contributors on that defensive front who were out. Arkansas should have mauled them. Arkansas did maul them in this game. I've got to go personally with the offensive line. I don't have many complaints. I didn't see any snap issues for a change, which was nice. Marion Harris looked much better out there at tackle than he did against LSU. Good to get Kudus back out there. And from the looks of it, I don't guess I noticed in real time because I know we were getting ready for the show, but looks like they got some other guys in there for a series or 2 at the end of the game. So overall, really pleased.
I was making that same realization as I was going through these PFF grades where I'm like, Keyshawn Blackstock played 16 snaps.
Yeah.
Josh Street played 7.
Joe
Maddox Lassiter played 12. I guess that was just in the offense. Joe Moore got out there for 7. Brooks Edmondson. I do remember seeing Amari Wiggins because I remember seeing 56 and being like, wait, what? Oh, yeah, okay. But I agree with your A, Curtis. And again, for everyone that's like, you were pumping all this sunshine, they scored 58 points. We're going to grade the offense pretty well. I don't feel this.
I would still give him about a C- for the year. The offensive
I was going to say
line,
this is just a Saturday grade, and the context matters again, and the expectations have been very low. Curtis, looking at PFF, we talked about this before we went live, but Fernando Carmona, one of his worst games of the year PFF wise, he allowed. So Arkansas was credited their offensive line with allowing 3 pressures, which for context they've been typically giving anywhere from like 9 to 12. And even higher than that some weeks. Like they've been giving up a lot of pressures. Blackstock, one of his weeks, gave up like 9 by himself. So for Arkansas as a team to only allow 3 is remarkable. They credited Carmona with 2 of those. And I believe it was Marion Harris with 1. But Marion Harris, his best pass blocking performance of the season, 85.4. Josh Braun with an 86.1, or say 86.8. Addison Nichols, 84.1. Patrick Kudus in his debut was Arkansas's highest graded offensive lineman overall. He had an 85.5 pass block grade and a 72.5 overall grade. Really, really encouraging stuff from that Arkansas offensive line. I think now that we've seen Patrick Kudus in there, this is the group that they can roll with, except for maybe that Louisiana Tech game. But I think it was good. It was unironically good to get Coot back in there. We've been saying that jokingly so much, but shit, it was good to get him back in there. Like it really was.
Yeah.
But no, I was really impressed. There were snapping. There was no weird snaps.
I don't recall any.
I don't remember one either. I was just making sure I didn't misremember.
Did you see the LSU field goal attempt late in that game yesterday where the holder wasn't even paying attention and he almost got it snapped off his face? They pissed that game away, but
I wasn't watching the LSU game, though I did win money on it. But I just was in group messages where my buddies were like, "This sucks. I hate Brian Kelly." Blah, 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 just going off. And so I knew something was going wrong.
Yeah, that was unreal. But I saw that snap and I was like, "Oh God, that looks familiar." But no, that was rough. LSU really pissed down their leg there. Marcel Reed came in there and looked like you want to talk about
How
Taylor
about
looking
that?
like Mike Vick. Good Lord, that dude was.
I'm also
nuts.
glad that happened because now it does. Arkansas's loss against A&M looks even better. Where it's like it's not one of those things because Wegman looked awesome in his return, but he's clearly not very good. Like we can confirm now at this point, the sample size is big enough.
I guess
Connor
so.
Wegman's not that great.
Yeah, I guess so. Crazy, man. Okay, so yeah, really, really good stuff from the offense for Arkansas. Anybody who was getting irritated saying, God, man, all what are they calling us? Fair weather podcasters
Fair weather
or something
podcasters,
yesterday? A bunch of fair weather listeners. We'll see what the numbers look like here. But if you were pissed off about the Kool-Aid sipping for the offense that put up nearly 700 yards and 60 points, we're going to be fairly harsh on this defense in a blowout victory. So brace yourselves if you're on the other side of the coin. Some really good things from the defense. Arkansas they had got 5 takeaways, man. And so anytime you do that, you got to give them a lot of credit. They made the plays in a lot of these situations as opposed to it just being really maybe bad mistakes on Mississippi State's part. Shout out to the strip sacks. I think Landon Jackson was in on both of them, but I think Jaden Johnson might have been the initiator on the second one. Really good. Xavier Sori, an interception. Who else? Hudson Clark, an interception and a fumble recovery that was forced by Miguel Mitchell. Great. You did give up 471 yards of offense in this game. And to me, this was not a situation where you had a huge lead and you took the foot off the gas and they just started kind of gashing you late. No, like Mississippi State had, I think, more than half of their yards in the first half, and they had many, many opportunities. I think I said on the accountability session, you're about the length of a football away from Mississippi State having 17, 21 more points on the board than they did. Now, credit to you for some big goal line stands, forcing some turnovers in key spots, but there are some things that Arkansas really needs to tighten up on the defensive end from this game and going back to that LSU game. So we'll talk about it. Defensive line, Andrew, I'm curious to see just kind of where your mind is at on this one. I thought Landon Jackson was a game wrecker once again. Saw some good things from a number of guys. Big Ian Jafar, just a mountain of a man in there in the middle. But then you look at it and, Mississippi State had some success rushing in there. I kind of have mixed feelings, I guess, about what I saw from the D-line.
I do as well. C+ is kind of where my brain is at.
Okay.
And let me just further where I'm at. The rushing you mentioned. Now, it's not like they were gashing Arkansas all day. I think they finished under 4 yards a carry, which he had a couple sacks mixed in there. But I was a little surprised that Mississippi State was able to run the ball when they decided to do it. Now, obviously, they were behind a lot. And I agree with your assessment that it's not like this was a garbage time rack up yards. They moved the ball at will in this game, Curtis. I mean, they didn't punt once, right? I mean, they obviously had 5 turnovers or whatever, but they did not punt, had some red zone stops. Now, they did get a huge, massive 4th down stop, which is why, you got to give the D-line credit for that, because when they needed to make a stop in those short yardage situations, they did a really good job. And if you look at the PFF grades, they grade the D-line pretty well. I mean, Landon Jackson was the highest graded Razorback defender at 77.3. Curtis, Anton Junkaj was credited with 4 pressures. He did not touch the quarterback, but he had 4 quarterback hurries. He had not had a pressure in literally 6 weeks or something like that.
So what you're telling me is Cardio Kaj was out there making plays, huh?
He was, although I guess a quarterback hurry is like the next evolution. If you're just getting cardio, a quarterback hurry is just extended cardio toward a man. That's right, because he didn't actually hit him. But I will say, like I just said, Arkansas's offensive line giving up only 3 pressures was awesome. Arkansas's defense, now the linebackers, who we'll talk about in a second, attributed to this, but they had 14 pressures on the Mississippi State quarterback, which is huge. That's a very respectable number, one you can live with. And like I said, they made some nice plays in the short yardage. I'm only going C+ just because I don't want to give them a ton of credit because I didn't think Mississippi State would be able to run the ball hardly at all. I thought Arkansas would do a good job containing that, but it was a fine performance. It was an above average defensive line performance, but I'm just going to go ahead and spoil. I'm giving the linebackers a lot of any credit I'm giving to the Arkansas defense. It's going to the linebackers. Yeah. I thought they were the best group. And so the defensive line wasn't bad, but I didn't think they were necessarily great either.
Yeah, I agree. My mind was on a C+ also. I'm going to go B-. And the only reason I'm doing that is because they did this to Cody Kennedy's boys up front. That's it. That's the only reason. And that makes me happy. So I'll give them a little bit of extra credit. We'll bump you up on the curve just because of that, which I appreciate. But there were some things that I liked in here. Arkansas did a lot of 3-down stuff. You got 12 snaps at nose tackle from Danny Saili, 24 snaps from Ian Jaffard, 24 snaps for the big fella. I like that, man.
Big time.
Get that big man in there. That made me excited. It got me going. He wasn't a game wrecker or anything, but goodness, if you think about, some of those goal line stands or turnover on downs, when you have a dude who is as wide as the entire offensive line standing there, that's 400 pounds that you can't move, there's a benefit in having that. So that was good to see. Was impressed with Landon Jackson. Kiwi Rose, I thought, played fairly well in there for the snaps that he got. So, but yeah, it's just, I don't know. Yeah, it was a little bit up and down, some things to tighten up. But like I said, I'll go B- because of the Cody Candy factor in there, because forget that guy, right? Linebackers, though, I'm with you, man. They were not great last week against LSU, and they've been a strength of the defense throughout the course of the season. But I thought they kind of returned to form in this game. 11 tackles for Xavier Sori, 11 tackles for Brad Spence. Hey, buddy, where have you been? 1.5 TFLs for Brad Spence, too. Although on that first turnover on downs, that fourth down play, it looked to me like Brad Spence was 1.5 yards in the backfield before the snap.
He's jumped off sides a few times, hasn't he?
He didn't get flagged for it, so I'll give him credit for that. But really good to see him get going, because I was kind of wondering if he was just going to fall off the map a little bit there. Steven Dix, whatever, 4 tackles in there. Switzer, I noticed, played quite a bit, but overall, I was pretty impressed. But you were hyping them up, so I want you to throw your grade out there first.
100%. I'm going to give them I'm going to go A-.
Okay.
I can't go A when you give up almost 500 yards of offense and, you give up a lot of stuff going on here. And PFF also graded them a little bit harsher than I thought. I want to mention, so by the way, Xavier Sori, one of his best games of the year. PFF gave him a grade just under 75. His run defense grade was 84.8. Did a much better job tackling after, again, he missed 3 tackles last week, and they docked him pretty hard for that. Had the huge interception. Brad Spence played one of his best games of the year. He played 45 snaps in this game, Curtis, and Steven Dix played 41, which I feel like is notable because it seemed for a really long time, and Steven Dix got the start in this game, but it seemed for a while like Steven Dix had really kind of outperformed and had kind of taken that other starting linebacker job and had a nice stranglehold on it. I feel like those two guys are a lot closer. I mean, it's nice to see Brad Spence punching back and going out there making plays. He had a sack in this game. Again, PFF didn't grade him tremendous. They gave him an 81.7 tackle grade. They gave him a 59.1 pass rush grade, which I don't know how they came to that conclusion, because I thought he did a good job in that regard. We mentioned how good Arkansas was in short yardage. Shout out to Bradley Shaw, another guy that PFF did not grade well because apparently he missed a tackle at some point. But he was in there on that 4th down stop, which I thought was cool to see. Good to see him getting some legitimate experience out there playing. Steven Dix was fine. Anthony Switzer, PFF graded really well. And I noticed him out there on one of those fumbles, and he was kind of in and around the ball. He ended up with a 75. He ended up with the highest graded Arkansas linebacker with 75.0 overall. I just thought it was a well-rounded effort, and there were a lot of holes in the Arkansas defense. I didn't think the linebackers were one of them. I felt like Mississippi State did a really good job of getting to the perimeter, getting downfield to avoid the Arkansas linebackers, and it's pretty much everyone other than them that was giving up all the issues.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
What I go with A- is what I want.
A-, yeah. Yeah, and I think I'm gonna piggyback on you and do the same thing. And again, I'm always torn between two, and I was B+, A- with this group. The Xavier Sori interception, plus having both Brad Spence and Steven Dix involved in a sack, there on top of the other things they did, that bumps me up for them a little bit. So nice work. The secondary, I'm just gonna tell you right now, I'm going with a D on this one. Yeah. And maybe that's harsh, I don't know, but 11 of Arkansas's 15 missed tackles in this game were credited to the secondary. And so they've got some issues back there. They allowed 309 passing yards in this game, and they made some plays like Miguel Mitchell with the forced fumble that Hudson Clark fell on. Hudson Clark did get the interception in there, but it's a couple games in a row now where they've been, exposed a little bit back there. There's some red flags and some things that they really have to tighten up, especially with, you think about some of the quarterback play and some of the playmakers on the outside that you're going to be facing in coming weeks. They really need to tighten the screws back there. I was I was not overly impressed with the secondary in this game, if I'm being perfectly honest.
I was not either, Curtis, and I wanted to run through a few numbers here real quick. So, by the way, Hudson Clark was one of the best, was one of the guys, like we're talking bad about the secondary. He's like the one guy that I thought played pretty well. I mean, we obviously had the interception. Now he did miss a tackle, and PFF docked him pretty hard for that.
Mm-hmm.
He was targeted 3 times in coverage, allowed 2 receptions for 8 yards. Great stuff. Miguel Mitchell, kind of similar, targeted 3 times, allowed 2 receptions for 12 yards. Outside of that, Curtis, Slaughter, 3 receptions, 77 yards. Metcalf, 4 receptions, 57 yards. Marquise Robinson, 2 receptions, 46 yards, and had a really bad pass interference. Larry Worth allowed 2 for 43. Sorry, who's not a defensive back, allowed 1 for 29. It seemed like Mississippi State was spreading that sucker around. You mentioned the missed tackles. There were a lot of times where they would get the quick completion out in space and then just make a guy miss, and which that's what good offenses do. But they were picking on this Arkansas secondary a little bit. Mm-hmm. They realized if they can get the ball, I mean, anytime they had time to throw and get it out to the perimeter, they were making Arkansas defenders look silly. Now, look, this is an Arkansas secondary that's banged up. I should say banged up. They're missing their best guy. It's a little bit of a makeshift operation with Hudson Clark now moving to corner and Miguel Mitchell now playing key snaps or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's also like we're in like week 10.
Exactly.
Where like this just kind of is the Arkansas secondary at this point. And it's the weak link of the defense. I don't think there's any denying that. Marquise Robinson, I actually think, has been pretty fine for the most part this year. I felt like Saturday was not one of his better games. I also don't like the Flappy Bird stuff as much as or I hate it as much as everyone else does. Weirdly enough, Jaheim Singletary is the guy that I'm typically one to be harsh on, but he really wasn't even one of the issues. He only allowed 2 receptions for 6 yards in this game. But overall, I just did not feel like Arkansas secondary, showed up for this matchup a ton. Didn't expect them to necessarily because we know Mississippi State's been throwing the ball all over these guys. They were able to force a few turnovers late, which I'm not even really giving the secondary too much credit for. I was not impressed as well. I'm going D as well. I like that.
There you go. Special teams wasn't really a lot going on there aside from Matthew Shipley made all 3 of his field goals. Now 27, 32, and 29. So you absolutely should. But those are field goals that Arkansas has missed this year. Yeah. So 3 of 3 for him. That's a feel good moment. Devin Bell only punted 1 time. Mississippi State their defense may have had their first 3 and out of the season on Arkansas on that particular drive where they were backed up there. I can't remember. I guess I texted the group and I was like, that might be the first time they've done that.
I will say, I was thinking about this. The only horrible Taylon Green moment of the day.
Yes.
He almost threw a pick 6 on that drive where they were backed out. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, that would have been tough scenes for sure. But then, Devin Bell booms it out of there from his own end zone, 53 yards, pretty solid. Nothing in terms of the return game for Arkansas, although on the other end, they tried to do the squib thing on the kickoff, and it wound up being a 42-yard, run that set up Mississippi State with good field position. I know that pissed a lot of people off.
Yeah.
B+. Yeah, B+. I don't like that. You can't be given opening field position at midfield, man.
I was gonna go just B just because of that. Because I mean, look, when you have like 3 plays you can evaluate and one of them's bad.
Yeah,
I feel like that's it. But yeah, Matthew Shipley, hey, great chip work, man. Great approach there.
Yeah.
Love that. Devin Bell, consistently awesome, consistently very good at his job. Love to see it. And I mean, just a little bit tough that the kickoff is bringing it down, but nothing that really affected the game. So yeah, B's fine.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you have it. Before we get out of here, Andrew, any final thoughts on this Arkansas Mississippi State game before we turn the page to Ole Miss coming into town next weekend?
Thank you, Mississippi State, for doing your job of being bad, because it just made our jobs of covering this Arkansas football program a little bit easier, and it allows us to exhale a little bit. And, we got hoops coming around the corner, so really it wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world if Arkansas football had imploded, but I'm just happy that we don't have to argue with angry fans for at least a few more days, and we can get a little bit of normalcy here. Sometimes you just got to do your job and be bad. And Arkansas has been in that position a lot where they've been the bad team that gives teams a week off. It was nice to watch this game and just relax.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. And before we get out of here, do want to give a shout out to everybody who taps in with us as always, but also to our sponsors, Alumni Hall. If you need your Razorback gear, make sure you get out there and check those guys out. They got a little bit of everything, including Christmas trees, which I've been throwing out there lately because I can't believe that. And then also our new friends over at Roback. Go to roback.com. Make sure you take advantage of our offer right now. Promo code HOGSBY20. And that'll get you 20% off your first purchase there, which is a really good deal because it's high quality, high end stuff. I got my eye on some of those hoodies, quarter zips, some of the things that kind of need to restock on as the weather finally, I think, is getting ready to change and cool off a little bit. So we're almost there. So make sure you check that out. Get subscribed where you need to get subscribed. Inside Arkansas YouTube page, throw those likes at us. We really appreciate that. It helps us increase our reach. Follow InsideArkansas.com for all the written content that we have going on. And then remember, Pot of That Nature in your podcast feeds, Apple, Spotify, wherever you're at. Check us out over there. We appreciate the support from everybody, but we're going to get out of here for now. So for Andrew Ellis, it's been Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas and the Pot of That Nature, and we will catch you guys later in the week. Appreciate everybody. Have a good one.